Uh, Hello, greetings, once again. I am Justiguy, and this is, Higurashi When They Cry. Uh, I believe, I am 99.99999% sure this is going to be the, finale of Onikakushi, depending on how long it takes. I don't know, because, when we did Tatarigoroshi, that took a little longer at the end than I thought it would, although I think I did still. Well, anyway, the point is, I don't know if this is just going to be the ending of Onikakushi or if we're gonna move right on to Watanagashi right after. But either way, let's just. Am I gone? Yes. Okay. Yes. Yes. Just wanted to be sure. Where are we? We ended on chapter 11 last night, and we're just gonna jump right in. Ah, yes, and as you may recall, we finished with basically destroying Ordina's hands. I guess I'd be lying if I said I didn't get any sleep. I tried to stay awake all night, but there were definitely gaps in my memory. I guess I kept nodding off and jerking awake in a panic all night. I spent all night hugging the metal bat and sat on top of the futon I used to barricade my door, waiting, waiting, watching, just in case someone tried to break in through my window. I left this spot. Someone surely break in through the door, sending the futon flying, and attack me. Stop watching the window. Someone would break through the glass, attack me. Tried telling myself I was just being paranoid, but I couldn't sleep. The thought of being so vulnerable scared the living daylights out of me. If sleep meant a risk, I didn't need it. So much better to just stay awake. At some point during that endless cycle of nodding off, jolting awake, light began to shine outside. But that was it. It wasn't so much the morning as it was just the sun simply having risen. I snuck a peek out through the curtains. Rena was gone. Couldn't see her anywhere, no matter how hard I looked. Finally, I could breathe a deep sigh of relief. Night. Finally over. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't tired, but I didn't feel like sleeping at the moment. Still had time. But I needed to make my own breakfast, so I'd better get started soon. Skipping school was also an option. My mom gone. It'd be easy to play hooky. Honestly, I debated it. The risk involved in leaving my house was incalculable. Staying holed up in here was probably my safest option. But staying here wouldn't solve anything. Ooishi-san wouldn't help me without cold, hard evidence. Neither he nor my parents. So unless I found some sort of proof, relentless nights would never end. Stretched my body, tilted my head back, and closed my eyes just like I did every morning. I regulated my breathing, regained my senses. Down. Come down, Mayabara Keiichi! Go to school. Let's wait until they set their trap for me. But that didn't mean I was just going to twiddle my thumbs. I needed to avoid that trap, secure irrefutable evidence. Take note of the plates of any car that drives by. If I see someone suspicious, check their clothes and face. I wasn't just protecting myself. I was preparing myself to turn their attack against them and retaliate. The tension was similar to when two samurai were both aiming to slay each other with a single motion as they draw their katanas. I was not at a disadvantage. I would have a chance to retaliate. If finally felt a bit of courage growing in my chest. All right, let's go to school. I tightened my grip on Satoshi's bat. He was the only partner I could count on. Satoshi, please lend me your strength and trust. Your dying regrets to me were probably murdered. I'll make sure I dispel them. With renewed resolve, I checked the clock. Still early. Of course, I was going to school by myself today. I didn't want to run into Reno or Mion. I needed to leave now. Shattered fragments of the cupboard were still strewn all over the entryway. Right. I meant to clean that up last night, but never got around to it with the phone call and everything. If my parents came back and saw this while I was at school, I would never hear the end of it. Still, I'd be wasting time if I cleaned it up right now. Considering what would happen if I ran into Reno or Mion, it wouldn't be too late to clean it up after I got back home. Making extra certain that the doors were locked, I left the house. My uniform was still covered in mud from yesterday, so I left it in the washer. Today, I was going to school in a tracksuit. By wearing a different outfit this morning, my mind was forced to accept that today was different from yesterday. I had a hunch. Today might be the day that I get killed. Guard up, Mayabara Keiichi! The only one who gets to decide if today is my last is me. I spent the morning practicing my swing like it was my natural routine. Ooh. After a while, Rena arrived at school. Our eyes met, but we said nothing. Rena said nothing about last night, as if it never happened. But I could see that those events were real by the wounds carved into her fingers. Oh. Oh. I just heard her telling Satoko and the others that the bandages were from hurting herself in the kitchen. So it wasn't like it bothered me. The details that ooishi-san shared about Rena's incident before her transfer played vividly in my mind. Now that I knew about it, I couldn't even dream of Rena as a cute, ideal girl. Kid-chan, I see you're still aiming for the nationals. It was Mion. I had already sensed her approach, so I wasn't that surprised. Oh, Mion, if you understand, then leave me alone. I'm busy practicing. I gave her a curt reply without my usual joke. Then I gave the bat an even larger swing, tacitly keeping Mion from getting any closer. Hey, Kei-chan, take it easy. I think Mion got the message, but she still urged me to give it a rest. Homeroom's not that far off, is it? Just let me finish practicing. I swung the bat even harder as a sign of my refusal. Hey, John, when did you get into baseball? Just recently. Recently? You mean yesterday? Don't ask if you already know. Oh dear. That's a very unsportsmanlike reply. You're distracting me. Go away. I ignored Mion and kept swinging. Oh. Normally, she'd get mad or bored and leave if someone gave her the cold shoulder like this. But Mion just stood there, waiting patiently for me to stop swinging. She cares, you baka! I didn't sense any hostility. But we were at school, in plain view. I doubt she'd suddenly attack me here. Or was that too naive? Still, I was starting to get tired. Maybe it wouldn't be so bad to take a break and hear her out. You need me for something, right? What is it? Sweat poured from me as I stopped swinging. I noticed my shoulders were heaving as I breathed. I cursed my lack of exercise. At this rate, I might not be able to move as I needed when the time came. Should probably keep practicing my swings to build stamina in addition to the excuse for carrying the bat around with me. Well, it's nothing important. If you're tired, I can ask again later. Now is fine. I'm only dealing with you right now because I judged this situation to be safe. Talking to you alone and away from others? That's out of the question. Well, Yon was uncharacteristically trying to choose her words. But unlike ooishi-san, it didn't look like she was going to talk about something I'd rather not hear. Yon was puzzled, trying to find the right thing to say. But then she gave a hearty laugh to break herself out of the mire. Ha ha ha! Ha 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 ha! This old man's just no good at this stuff. Having a poor vocabulary hurts. What's this all of a sudden? If you have something to say, just say it. Uh-oh. Stop it. Stop that swinging. She cut straight to the point. Her request was so frank I didn't understand it for a moment. I had already stopped swinging to listen to her, hadn't I? I just stopped, didn't I? That's not what I meant. I want today to be the last day you swing that bat. I'm sorry. It took me some time to understand what she was asking. What's wrong with swinging a bat? Why? None of your business, is it? I'm not bothering anyone, am I? You are. Leon said it flat out. This didn't make any sense, and that was really irritating. When did I bother anybody? Shit, I didn't plan on that. Leon was at a loss for words. But she finally made up her mind and spoke, though she stuttered as she said it. Because, Kate-chan, that's someone else's bat. You shouldn't borrow it without permission. It was left behind by a student who transferred, right? I'm just borrowing it until he comes back for it. Yeah, he transferred. Leon grew uncharacteristically flustered. That made it all too clear that his transfer was a lie. It's strange, isn't it? For the older brother to transfer by himself, while his little sister stayed behind. Leon couldn't hide my reaction as my words shook her up. Kate-chan, you knew? Hojo Satoshi, Satoko's older brother, right? The one demoned away last year. Unable to respond to that, Mion fell silent. Rina asked the same thing. Why did you start swinging that bat? He told me Satoshi did the same thing, practicing his swings, right before he went missing. So, is this some kind of omen for Oyashiro-sama's curse? Shh! Mion panicked and looked around. Please, Kate, mention Oyashiro-sama so recklessly. I don't believe in him, but the others very much do. Anna especially. Dangerously so? And ooh, look at their face. Anyway, you're scaring everyone. If you're just fooling around, then stop it. You have to stop acting like Satoshi. I was the one who was scared. Who do I have to thank for taking up his bat in the first place? But it still unsettled me knowing that my actions were overlapping with Satoshi's. It would be one thing if someone suggested it, but I thought I was making my own decisions. Hey, Zaki, how's it going? I'll say this now. I don't know anything about Satoshi. After all, you didn't tell me anything about him. We didn't mean to hide it. You were hiding the incidents that happen every year, weren't you? That's because we didn't want to, You didn't want to scare me? That's your reason for leaving me out? No, we didn't mean to. Mion, I asked you directly if something happened at the dam, didn't I? and you told me nothing happened. When someone was dismembered and murdered, you lied to me. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to lie to you. Friends don't hide things from each other, right? Oh, God, Keiichi, don't open that door. Isn't that right? You all aren't... Oh. You all aren't my friends. Kei-chan, wait. Mion looked helpless and flustered. Was I imagining the tears in her eyes? I never could have imagined Mion acting like... Oh, by the way, those get-well mochi you brought the other day, they were good. I thought I was going to bleed. Who did it? You or Rena? Me. He admitted it so easily. Couldn't help but be surprised at how easy that was. You could have killed me. How could you do that to a friend? But it was just a little prank. Mion gave me a wry smile mixed with confusion, causing even more anger to well up inside of me. You think that was a prank? I grabbed Mion by the collar and lifted her up. That wasn't the same as putting Tabasco sauce in a piece of mochi. It was a needle! A sewing needle! I'd swallowed that and it lodged in my throat. What did you think would happen? Mion's face froze as her body rattled in fear. This wasn't the Sonozaki Mion I knew anymore. Anyways, you're not my friend. There's no reason for me to listen to someone who... Just leave me alone for a while. Got it? Mion wasn't replying anymore. It won't be that easy to erase me, you know. The cops have been onto you from the start. So don't think you can make me disappear like you did Satoshi. I said it clearly. This was my declaration of war. I think you guys are suspects in the previous incidents too. I also know you've spent a lot of time with the cops ever since the anti-dam movement. Don't think you can hide it from me, got that? How did you know? Mion stood there with a dumbstruck look on her face. That was when I heard the principal ringing the bell for school. It was time for morning homeroom. Let's go. The class representative needs to be there, right? That moment, for the first time, I realized Mion was sobbing. His tears ran down her cheek. You're so mean, Kei-chan. I wanted to console her, but I shut my mouth. I had no need to feel guilty. I'm going. Don't be late for homeroom. I left Mion, still shaking, as I turned around to head for the entrance. Sorry, just taking a sip of my tea here. I had no idea how troubling it was to make a girl cry. Are you sure? Because I'm pretty sure it was barely 12 hours ago you were slamming a girl's fingers in a door, and I'm pretty sure that, you know, behind my back I could hear her muttering. It was a faint mutter as she was speaking to herself. So that's how it is. Huh? She wasn't saying it to anyone. It was Mion talking to herself. But it was a sobbing voice, with a kind of giddy, cursing tone. I inadvertently stopped and turned back towards her. So it was that bastard. He leaked it all to Kei-chan. She balled up her fists as her tears continued to rain down. She glared at a spot on the ground with a terrifying yet smiling face. Cursing. Chill ran down my spine from that demonic expression. Transformation. Mion's transformation was different from Rena's. Should have killed him back then. Got the mercy I showed him just because he was going to retiring this year. Is she talking about ooishi-san? Damn it. Damn it. Damn old man. It felt like the air itself had begun distorting. With Mion at the center, the world had begun to twist and spiral, bending, whirling. This was the first time I'd experienced such a visage. Rise! Attention! Mion made up an excuse for her red eyes by saying that there was something wrong with her contacts. Sorry again. After that, neither Rena nor Mion spoke to me for the rest of the day. Neither Satoko nor Rika-chan looked at me in the eye. Strangely, I didn't feel hurt. Everything had just went back to the way it was. The month since I transferred in had almost been too much fun. That was all. School was supposed to be something like this to begin with. I should have disliked that feeling, but today it felt oddly refreshing. The bell rung, sounding the end of the monotonous school day, which had felt so tense, yet so dull. Since it would cause a lot of unpleasant memories if they asked me to join into the club activities, I promptly started preparing to go home without even looking at them. I stuffed the contents of my desk into my bag, wrapped my hand around Satoshi's now familiar bat, and began heading towards the entrance. I was assailed by both the exhausting relief that nothing had happened today and the tiring possibility of the same thing repeating tomorrow. But deep down inside me, far beneath in the recesses of my heart, achingly, I knew this would be the last day of this cycle. I couldn't tell how the ending would be, whether it would end as I wished it to end, or if it would end as I hoped it wouldn't. Regardless, in my current state, there was something more important than how things would end. There was something I wanted to know. Why did I have to be killed? How did it come to this? Why? For what purpose? The sunlight was relentless. The sun, the heat, even the air. They wouldn't give me my answer. Could it be that the cries of the Higurashi were desperately trying to tell me something? Somewhere, mixed in with their shrieks, Onikakushi and Satoshi were also probably trying to tell me something. I simply haven't been able to realize it yet. When I do realize it, I wonder if I will be amongst the Higurashi fruitlessly crying to the next victim. Glancing down at my feet, I saw a Higurashi on its back, asming weakly. Whee, whee, whee. There was still much of the summer left, yet this one was already chirping its last song. I couldn't tell what it was saying, no matter how hard I listened. But I had to try. I had to try to listen to what it was desperately trying to tell me. At that moment, the shrills of the Higurashi ceased all at once, as if they had huddled all together, fearing that the person who'd brought them to their dreadful fate had arrived. There was no mistaking it. A presence was approaching. The sound of footsteps was almost non-existent. If the Higurashi hadn't warned me by ending their chirping, I wouldn't have noticed. My exhaustion left me in a heartbeat. In its place was a rush of adrenaline that sharpened all of my senses. I was just barely able to hold back that creeping, suffocating feeling of horror. It wasn't something I could hold back for long. But in this moment, when I needed to be razor sharp, I was able to retain my composure. I wasn't going to shout like I did yesterday. I hid myself, calmly, amongst the trees, waiting for my pursuer's shadow. ooishi-san! I get them to pass by me? No. Since I was able to hear their footsteps, they were probably also able to hear me. They might have already been able to tell that I'd hidden myself and was holding my breath. The person tailing me, was it Lena, just like yesterday? If it was Lena, I wouldn't hold back. You saying yesterday was holding back? I could just yell at her and make her go ahead like yesterday. If it wasn't Nana, it would depend on how they acted, I guess. The footsteps ambled closer. I swallowed, wiped my clammy hands on my pants, and readjusted the grip on the bag. I could tell that the fear that I had beaten back once was now waiting for another opening to come at me. Who could it be? I peeked out from behind the tree at the person following me. My imagination hadn't led me astray. It was Rena. There was a bit of relief as I realized it was someone I knew, but that feeling left me in an instant. This wasn't the same Rena that I knew. Her eyes were dark and lifeless, but her mouth appeared as if it was carved into a crescent. Yes, it looked like she was grinning slightly. In her right hand was an axe. I hid myself behind the tree once again and recalled the unbelievable sight I just saw. What was that just now? The embodiment of terror laid bare. Baseball, practicing my swing. There were tons of excuses for me carrying a bat. But for that axe? There was no excuse for that. An axe, just like that. Hey, Chico. Are you playing hide and seek? I wonder. My heart was pounding. Hard enough that I had trouble breathing. The little composure I had been able to hold on to was now crushed. In its place, cold sweat gushed forth, covering my entire body, letting me know precisely what kind of emotion had taken hold. Keiichi, my boy! You literally had a monologue about this exact scenario. Like, what would it have been, 3 days ago? Like, back in what? I'm not going to interrupt the flow. But he did. He totally did. Not good. I wasn't able to hide myself completely. She already knew I was here. Were you trying to scare me? I wonder. I decided that it would be better to reveal myself now. There was still space between than to allow Nana to be closer. I adjusted my grip on the bat again, readied myself mentally, stepped out from behind the tree. I found you, Keiichiko. And I was pleased that she found me, eliciting a mysterious giggle. But her eyes told me she was displeased by the fact that I had been hiding. Eyes. They were just so empty. My legs began to quiver. Ugh, not good. In the pit of my stomach, some sort of viscous, hot fluid. Oh, hot and cold. I don't know where the fluid came from. Don't take that out of contents. The pit of my stomach. Why am I laughing at that? In the I don't know. I'm so fucking stupid. I'm sorry. In the pit of my oh, God. Okay, give me a sec. In the pit of my stomach, some sort of viscous, hot, and cold substance began spreading around. If I allowed it, that substance slip into my bloodstream and undoubtedly freeze all the organs in my body. Not good. I'll be devoured by Rena at this rate. Strike back. Don't lose. What is it? I blustered, hiding behind my bravado. But Rena didn't flinch one bit. Just the same as Keiichi-kun, I'm heading home. And what about that axe? And what about the bat you're holding? I'm practicing my swing. Then I'm treasure hunting. Rena gave a flippant explanation as to why she had such a fearsome weapon. Treasure hunting? At the treasure mountain near the dam site, I found a new cute thing, so I needed this to dig it out. How could I believe that? Wouldn't believe it, would you? Rena's laugh was obviously very strange. I'd seen Nena's transformation many times before, but the one today was completely different. Like her mischievous tone and the shrewd glint in her eyes. It wasn't something that roundabout. Roundabout. Not sure what to say. It was just so obvious. Wait, Keiichi-kun. Rena didn't stop walking even as she let out that eerie laugh. Whenever Rena got too close to me, I would scurry away and turn back towards her. This cycle repeated over and over. No matter how you looked at it, I was being chased by Rena and was trying to escape. Don't follow me! I can't do that. My house is this way, after all. When I met with Rena on this road yesterday, she cowered and trembled as she followed my commands. But today was different. He was wearing a mask. Rena didn't show a hint of trepidation. Actually, wasn't I the one who was cowering? The way home for Rena and me was the same. That's fine. I just changed my route. That'd work out, wouldn't it? I turned onto a side street I'd never been down and knew little about. But Rena saw me do that and followed me while laughing. Why? Why? Aren't you going home? I just go down home the street you normally do. Why would you follow me down this weird little side road? Those thoughts screamed in my head. Eventually spilling out of my mouth. Why are you following me? The tone of my voice was already tinged with terror. Because I want to talk to Keiichi-kun. Keiichi-kun wants to talk to Rena too, doesn't he? Doesn't he? I don't want to talk about anything with you. That's a lie, isn't it? There's something you want to ask me about, isn't there? Not at all. I have nothing to talk to you about. That's a lie, isn't it? It's not a lie. Lies! And a scream echoed, startling some nearby birds into flight. I cringed in fear. The only other thing I could do was increase my pace. I'd win this race. I'd get first place. By the time Rena caught up with me, I'd be in space. Let's talk, Keiichi-kun. Talk. Why was I running down this unfamiliar and deserted street? Doesn't Keiichi-kun have something he's worried about? Nothing at all. I'm not worried about anything. Lies! Even though I was running, Rena was walking. Why wasn't I getting any farther away? I know. I really do know. You're scared. Aren't you, Keiichi-kun? I'm not scared. I'm not scared of anything. Lies! My breathing grew heavy, and it felt like my legs were giving out from beneath me. Rena wasn't even breaking a sweat. I'll listen. This time I'll listen. I had no idea what she was talking about or what exactly she wanted to do. This time I'll listen. It will be different from the time with Satoshi-kun. When she said Satoshi's name, I turned back for a moment. But even as I did that, Nana was still advancing. I couldn't afford to stop. Satoshi-kun was worried too. It looked like he was having such a hard time. But I didn't listen. I was so sad. Where did this street even connect to? All these twists and turns. All these ups. These downs. It's hard to believe that this was even remotely in the direction towards my house. My sense of direction had long since gone out the window. I really regretted it when Takashi transferred out. I thought that if I had listened, he may not have transferred out. I really regretted that. The road led me deeper into the forest. Farther away from the village I ran. Lost more and more of my composure the more I thought about it. But despite this realization, my inner self was still disturbingly calm. So you see, I vowed. I vowed that if there was someone struggling like Satoshi-kun did, I'd save them. I don't want to see anyone transfer out again. Damn it! What does transfer even mean? I won't let you transfer me. I won't end up the same as Satoshi. Okay, Chica, talk to me. I'll be able to understand you, Keiichi-kun. I'm your ally. I started wheezing, out of breath. My lungs were so hot that they felt like they were going to explode. My heart was beating as hard as it possibly could. I should have practiced running instead of my swing. I couldn't even afford to scoff at that stupid thought. Keiichi-kun doesn't have anything to worry about. Go back to... Everyone will be back to being friends. We can enjoy club activities again. Next time, we'll team up and beat me-chan. Yeah. How much fun that would be. Then I couldn't even imagine how much I had wished I could turn back the clock on these past few days. You could be nice to me again, too. Want to go searching for treasure again. This time, I'll prepare a nice lunch. Actually, we could just go right now. Let's go up to the dam site together. I'll show you the cute thing I just found. I'm sure you'll like it, too. My footsteps made pathetic, flapping sounds as my legs wobbled and faltered. Hot on my heels, and our steps were sharply breaking twigs underfoot. I had to accept it. I was on the run, being chased by Reno. If she caught me, it was all ogre. I realized it instinctively. Couldn't even begin to think of what the end would entail. Just that if I was caught, it was all over. That's all I knew. It didn't matter how it was going to end. I wouldn't let it end. Not without knowing anything. Not yet. That momentary lapse was all it took. Of all the things that could have happened, my knees buckled underneath me and I crumpled towards the ground. I tried to stand frantically, urging my legs to respond. I used my bat as a makeshift cane to prop myself up, but Lena was already standing right in front of me. Compared to me, out of breath and utterly exhausted, Lena was so cool and composed that she could have froze the air around her. She wasn't breathing hard at all. Rather, I couldn't even sense if her heart was beating. Are you afraid of something, I wonder? Not like you to tremble, Keiichi-kun. I am bad at these laughs. Her expression looked almost affectionate. Soulless eyes. That mask of affection. She admonished me for trembling. Rena's hands deftly slipped over her head. The blur of arms as they moved made me feel as if I was staring at the godliness of the 1,000-armed Buddha. And as both of her hands met above her head, the axe that she held came into focus. I stared up at it in disbelief. Tell me, what happened to Satoshi? Rena stayed like that, with that axe raised above her head, solemnly opened her mouth. It was as if she was expressing a farewell to a friend she was never able to see again. That cruel scenario resided somewhere in her actions. I told you, Satoshi-kun transferred out. Enough of that transfer crap! Means demoned away, doesn't it? Doesn't it? Tell me now, can't you? Who made Satoshi disappear? Was it you, Mion, or someone else in the village? Answer me! I became frantic the more I screamed, but Rena did nothing but maintain the smile frozen on her face. I have no idea what Keiichi-kun is talking about. And I'll say it in a way so you do. Who is the perpetrator of this chain of mysterious deaths? You seem to be confused, Keiichi-kun. There is no human perpetrator. Everything is by Oyashiro-sama's will. Isn't Oyashiro-sama's curse just some superstition? Do you believe in that too? It's not about believing or not. Oyashiro-sama exists. Period. Rena's gaze grew even more gelid. The ferocity of her stare was so intense, not allowing me to question anything. There's no way that something like Oyashiro-sama could exist. You don't believe in Oyashiro-sama? There's no way I could believe it. There's no way it could exist. It exists. Oyashiro-sama exists. Keiichi-kun should have felt it personally. I never felt something like that. Keiichi-kun, haven't you felt someone apologizing to you before? Constantly on top of that? All noise from the outside world disappeared. Only Lena's voice resounded loudly and terribly. You see, till you forgive them, they'll always be with you. At school, at home, at your bedside. I couldn't understand what Rena was saying. It came to me, too. Oyashiro-sama did. That's why I transferred and came back to Hinamizawa. I don't understand. I don't understand. What does transfer even mean? What was Rena saying? Hasn't Oyashiro-sama come to you as well, Keiichi-kun? I'm probably the only one you can confide in. I won't let you transfer out. Okay? Rena's demented laughter clanged around inside my head. Was Rena saying Oyashiro-sama came to her as well? That's right. Last night I had heard about that when I asked about Rena. Please keep this confidential. Also, part of this may be speculation. That's with ooishi. Also, part of this may be I don't remember how I did it. Not all of it may be true. Are you still interested? Ooishi-san began speaking. Neither the victims nor the school filed a complaint. Oh, there's no preliminary report. Basically, the police hadn't intervened in this matter. Oh, all of these details are just what I heard from those involved. Meaning that it's not credible. That credible. You said there were victims! Didn't Rena just break all the windows? No, Rena had attacked 3 boys using a metal bat. 2 of them made it out with only bruises. But the other had been so badly injured that one of his eyes was permanently damaged. Wouldn't that be considered assault? Didn't the police have arrested her? For whatever reason, the victim never pressed charges. There was no report to the police, so they were beaten with a bat and suffered significant injuries. Normally, there would be a criminal investigation. But why? Why didn't they press charges? I tried asking the 3 male victims for their side of the story, but they were all reluctant. Hard to say. They were all afraid. Even after she had transferred schools. Ooishi-san, did you summarize it starting from the beginning? Rena hit people when she broke the windows? Or was it she started breaking the windows after she got bored of hitting people? They sounded similar, but the meanings were drastically different. On an undisclosed date, Rena was conversing with 3 male students, close friends of hers, near the pool storage shed. Who were those 3? I can't reveal their names, but they were close to Rena, and it seems they were a group of friends. She was the lone girl in their group, but wasn't that strange that the 4 of them were together? So what happened? I don't know the reason why. She took the baseball team's bat that was in the pool storage shed and beat the 3 of them down one after the other. What? There were no witnesses. This was an account pieced together by the information given at the time of the incident. One day, excuse me, after school, Rena and the 3 male students were at the pool storage shed talking together. They weren't seeking help, rather they usually met up there. It appears it became a heated discussion. At that time, Rena underwent a change. No. The change was so abrupt that the 3 of them didn't comprehend what was happening. Then, taking the metal bat, she attacked her friends one after the other, leaving her friends covered in blood with gashes on their head. She made her way towards the school building. Then she broke the glass windows one after the other. A few minutes later, a teacher appeared on the scene and subdued her. What was this change Rena underwent? What matches up in the statements from the 3 was a sudden change. The point that there was a transformation. He even used some kind of lilt, they say. Transformation. I also could recall Rena's transformation. I'd seen that change many times before. It was so different from the usual Rena that I couldn't help but believe it was just someone else who looked like Rena. That transformation they're talking about. Had it happened before? No, there was nothing like that. As far as I could find out, in her medical history and past, there was nothing like that. Does that happen often? Where people change suddenly like Rena did? Of course it does. There are plenty of psychological phenomena that could cause something like that. Then, you're saying it was a dormant element in Rena that caused that transformation? I cannot say that for certain, but according to the statement of her friends, it's hard to believe that she had such a side to her. kind, caring, and adorable. Even before she transferred here, she was pretty popular in school like she was now. That girl transforming suddenly and assaulting them with a bat. Who could imagine such a thing? Nobody could have seen it coming. I myself sometimes believe that even that I was mistaken for thinking that was an Anna. Even now. Then, what happened after that? There was a hospital right across from the school. So the three of them were carried in and treated quickly. What about Nana? What about the police? Why wasn't there a criminal investigation? You see, the police can't get involved unless they are called. Even though one was badly injured with permanent damage? Oh, excuse me. Why? Why didn't they file charges? That's what caught my attention as well. Either some threat or pressure was placed on them, or they had a reason they couldn't file charges even if they wanted to. We're talking about you, after all. Of course you looked into it, didn't you? Well, yeah. I kind of love that. The way they're talking. Like, KHD is talking to a freaking adult cop, and he's like, okay, we're talking about you, after all. You looked into it, didn't you? Like, they're so casual with each other. Well, yeah, but I told you at the beginning, didn't I? That the victims were all very reluctant to talk. They didn't want to touch on the matter, or rather, they didn't want to be involved. Excuse me, reluctant to talk, didn't want to touch it, didn't want to be involved. They resembled the villagers here. Oyashiro-sama's cursed. Did the teacher at that school tell you anything? A school is hallowed ground. You could say they tend to keep scandals under wraps. I didn't have a search warrant, so I had to tread lightly, you see. And there was no comment from the school? No. They denied the incident even happened. It's just 3 male students were carried in for blunt force trauma that day. That's all there was in the hospital records. The victims didn't speak, the school denied it happened, then you don't know anything at all. Yeah, I know nothing other than the incident itself had taken place. The victims also wished this incident be kept from the public. So if you and I both forget about it, my bar-san, then this incident, it will probably just fade away. For a brief period, we sat in silence. First glance, it looked like a simple assault case. But that was just the tip of the iceberg. The depths were obscured by rolling waves, sinking quietly into the void, as if it never existed to begin with. After that, she was suspended by the school, and during that time, she underwent psychiatric counseling. Did you hear anything from that doctor? Again, they were very professional in regards to their ethics, or at least very tight-lipped. Nothing even after you showed them your badge? I was told to get a warrant. The badge itself has no legally binding authority, after all. And how did you know that Rena confessed to that it was Oyashiro-sama who did it? There was a nurse I asked in that department. She agreed to help me just from showing her my badge. Then, what did she say? Turns out that the nurse hadn't heard everything. Apparently, all that she remembered was what she overheard from inside the room. The nurse said that, at the time, Rena was very calm and mild-mannered. It was more like she was confessing her sins at church than a counseling session. She spoke with her mother there for some of it, but partway through, her mother was asked to leave, so it became a private counseling session between the doctor and Nena for a while. The part with Oyashiro-sama, when did that pop up? Partway through, she screamed the name suddenly. That startled the nurse, and that's why she started listening in. It was Oyashiro-sama! Nena suddenly shouted that. have no idea what was said before that, so I have no idea what the meaning behind it could have been. Ooh, our song! Doctor, calmly and collectedly, asked Renana. What is this Oyashiro-sama you speak of? Gently, the verse so gently. The fundamentals of counseling or believing what you were told. Whoever abandons Hinamizawa will be hunted down by Oyashiro-sama. And you've finally gotten to me! That's the town you lived in before you moved here. Isn't that right, Yugu-san? I didn't want to move, but because of my mom and dad's circumstances, we had to. But Oyashiro-sama wouldn't allow it. Yugu-san must have lots of friends in Hinamizawa. Even now, you must be missing them dearly. Don't you think? I want to go back to Hinamizawa. No, it's not that I want to go back. I have to go back. I should have gone back much sooner. Now it's too late. Oyashiro-sama has come! Oyashiro-sama is the name of the god in Hinamizawa, is that right? Everyone knows. It's Hinamizawa's guardian deity. If you ever try abandoning Hinamizawa by leaving, you'll incur his wrath. You had moved quite a while ago, didn't you? Then it was just now that this god has arrived, is what you're saying? You might not believe me, but Oyashiro-sama exists. That nurse was then asked by another nurse to do something and left the room. That was all she remembered. That it was Oyashiro-sama's doing, right? I do believe there is that kind of superstition in Hinamizawa, that if you leave the village, then you will incur Oyashiro-sama's wrath. You should be familiar with this part, my son. I knew very well what those scorned by the village incurred. To hinder the dam construction project, they cursed the construction foreman to his death. In the following year, Satoko's parents, supporters, and leading advocates for the dam were cursed to their death. But this was the first time I've heard of the curse incurred by leaving the village. This is my first time hearing that. I can understand outside threats being cursed by the village, but why also villagers who leave? Normally people who leave villages aren't supposed to be cursed, right? I know it's a bit strange to say it, but I could see it as a rule that the people who come in are the ones who would be cursed. Far from Jupiter, far from his thunder. Curses weren't something to chase after people that leave, were they? Ooishi-san pondered for a bit over on the other end of the receiver, then began speaking again. Well, I told you of long ago when Hinamizawa was called Onikakushi, didn't I? I recalled hearing that long ago, in a distant land. I, Aku, the shape-shifting master of darkness, was feared and respected as the village of ogres. The villagers at the foot of the mountains worshipped the ogres. The Onikakushi was hallowed ground that you could never enter. It came to be said that if you entered carelessly, you were cursed by Oyashiro-sama. Those who set foot in Onikakushi, in other words, Hinamizawa, would be cursed. I can understand that. I know that. But for leaving to also be no good, that's... Also the ogres, you see. They were being strictly watched by Oyashiro-sama, so they would not enter into our world. In other words, Oyashiro-sama probably restricted interaction between Onikakushi and the rest of the world. See, I finally understood what sort of thing Oyashiro-sama was. So basically, Oyashiro-sama is more like a warden than a protectorate deity, I guess. trying to keep this place isolated from the rest of the world. I guess that's how it would seem. I'm sorry, I don't know very much myself. This is mostly what was passed on to me from my grandmother. I can understand it a bit better if it was like that. Those who came to Hinamizawa would be cursed, and those who tried to leave would also be cursed. So, because Rena originally lived in Hinamizawa and moved away, she fulfilled the requirements for being cursed. So that means, because Rena moved away against its wishes, she was cursed by Oyashiro-sama. Is that what it adds up to? In short, that seems to be what it points to, I guess. As a matter of fact, soon afterwards, they did move back to Hinamizawa after all. Those who abandoned Hinamizawa and left were cursed. But then, why only Rena? Shouldn't Rena's parents also have been guilty of the same transgression by moving away and have been cursed? Also, in this day and age of Japan, shouldn't there be a lot of people coming and going? If every single one of them was cursed, then it'd be insane. But in reality, it wasn't that big a deal at all. At most, there would be one person dying and one person disappearing on the day of the Watanagashi. I don't like saying at most, though. Well, anyways. There's a lot I still don't know. Even if it was Oyashiro-sama's curse, it doesn't add up as to why her classmates, the victims who were beaten with a metal bat, wouldn't press charges. You don't think the victims were cowering because they believed that a terrible curse had befallen them, do you? Of course I didn't want to believe it. But more importantly, I had just realized something else. There was another bizarre connection that Rena made between Oyashiro-sama's curse and metal bats. Satoshi fell victim to Oyashiro-sama's curse and went missing. I had recently learned that Satoshi had also become infatuated with the metal bat right before he disappeared, just like me. Then Rena as well. She was affected by Oyashiro-sama's curse. She confessed that much to the doctor. And the weapon which she had used at the time of that horrendous act was, again, a metal bat. And finally, me. I'd encountered various things that were inexplicable, and now I was holding onto a metal bat. I was shocked when I learned that Satoshi did the same thing. It couldn't be. Had the same thing happened to Rena? There was one critical difference between her and Satoshi's case. She's a girl. Also, Satoshi went missing after falling victim to the curse, but Rena was still here. That was it. Both of them had fallen victim to Oyashiro-sama's curse, yet they were met with different endings. And finally, me. I couldn't call it a coincidence anymore. Rena, Satoshi, finally, me. Could it be that I really was under Oyashiro-sama's curse right now? No, more importantly than that, what should I do now? Satoshi had been demoned away, vanishing without a trace. Rena was fine. Fine? Rena had undergone a change. I could only believe that there was something that wasn't Rena residing within her. And here, right now, finally, we're out of that flashback. It was standing before me. Rena, please tell me, what will happen to me? Rena stood imposingly, not answering. Satoshi disappeared, but Rena didn't disappear. But what will happen to me? I'm sorry, I can't force it. I had never heard such an unpleasant laugh before. It had become akin to the sound of her breathing. It was no longer a voice or an expression of feeling. Don't worry, I'll save you. Vanna took one step forward, still holding the axe high above her head. Now then, one step closer. Vanna's face spread out to fill my vision. Speak. One step closer. Vanna's nose was close enough to touch mine, and was still pushing closer. There's something you want to say, isn't there? I'll listen. I'll save you, okay? Speak. Hey, speak, okay? I slumped down, landing squarely on my butt. It wasn't for some pathetic reason. It was all I could do to get as far away from Nena. I had the gut feeling that I couldn't let her laughter end. Because when that laughter ended, the moment I picked up on that feeling, my body moved by instinct. I sprang to my body so fast even I couldn't believe it and pushed Nena away with both hands. Nena was as light as a feather. Thrown about by the unbalanced weight of the axe, she was sent backwards as if she had been carried off by the wind. After confirming that out of the corner of my eye, I dashed off at full speed. I was the perfect picture of fleeing like a greased pig. Get away from that. Run away. Survive. I couldn't think of anything other than this. While I was running, I remember I had been holding onto a bat the entire time. Such a worthless weapon. I couldn't believe I'd forgotten about this weapon at such an important time. I sped even farther down the winding path. I didn't even feel myself gasping for breath or my legs getting heavy. My body understood it as well. If I didn't run away from here, I wouldn't live. I could hear the laughter of that simulacrum of Nena coming from behind me. It rang through the trees and in my head and slowly chiseled away at my sanity. The grove of trees thinned out, and my field of vision suddenly expanding. Where was this? For a moment, I was bewildered by the scenery I felt I knew but couldn't quite remember. I quickly realized it was the damn site. The fact that I dashed madly and ended up in a place like this gave me a bad feeling, like I was following someone's scripted plot. I had a good view of my surroundings, but I didn't see a single soul here. This was a terrible spot for someone on the run, but there was no better place for an attacker. My heart was already on the verge of bursting. Muscles in my legs were screaming. But I didn't care. If I stopped here, then they might not even be able to scream for much. Longer. Even still, I glanced back, looking for an excuse to rest, and I wasn't there. Instead, I saw two villagers walking around. I breathed a sigh of relief that it wasn't Nena. A third party. Except the voice inside me rang the alarm once again. Villagers walking around weren't suspicious in and of itself. Villagers walking around weren't suspicious in and of themselves, but it bothered me. They both wore rough-looking clothes. Empty-handed, they definitely gave the impression that they were just out for a walk. But this time of day, adults wandering around without a purpose? It was enough to raise questions. More than anything else. Eyes. They weren't chit-chatting while walking. They were both silent, looking forward, looking in my direction. Was I at the end of my rope and had finally started imagining things? I should run away. That was probably the best choice. If they weren't involved, I'd lose them easily by running. If they weren't part of the group after me, then they would come running after me. Either way, unless I hurried up, Nena would catch up with me. That's right. I was gonna run. Deciding that, the moment I began to turn tail, both of them rushed towards me as if they knew exactly what I was thinking. Somewhere inside me, I had jumped to the conclusion that Nena was the only thing I needed to be afraid of. I made the assumption that I didn't need fear or anything else, but right now I realized just how blatantly wrong I was. Suddenly, the story Ooishi-san told me about the demons all leaving the village to hunt prey floated back through the back of my mind. I could tell they were both coming after me without even turning around because of their frantic footsteps. It was frightening, being unable to shake Nena off as she slowly closed in on me. But this didn't even compare. Being pursued with such violent ferocity. This straightforward horror was unparalleled. One of the pursuers' arms grazed my shoulder. Now it wasn't just their frenzied footsteps, but also the distinct sound of their breathing that I could hear. No, I could practically feel them breathing on me. They were already right behind me. Calm down, my Abarakechi. Still running at full tilt, I felt the surrounding area go still. No, it felt like time itself had stopped. I turned my head back slightly in that frozen world.
realizing how close my pursuers had gotten to me. I couldn't win even against the legs that had dealt. Unless then the time it would be to blink twice. When this frozen time began moving again, they'd be right on top of me. On top of me, and then... Don't think about that, Keiichi. First, realize that you won't be able to shake them off like this. If the fact that you can't get away was a given, then you need to make a decision. Go with the right leg or go with the left. You just need to decide which one. Let's go with the left. The moment I decided that, the temporal singularity burst into pieces. Right. Left. I swung the bat in a wide arc and my right arm. Using that inertia, I stopped and suddenly spun. What? Two of them were clearly startled. Momentarily losing sight of me, both their outstretched arms ready to grab me, instead grasped at empty space. The man on the right, I applaud him for being able to figure it out, spun around to the spot I shouldn't have been and faced me in astonishment. But it was too late. I didn't even need to swing my bat. All I needed to do was extend my arms as I turned around. It was by no means a heavy blow, but it seemed like it had enough power behind it to knock him off his feet. But just knocking him down wasn't enough to scare him away. He got back up in no time. Both of them took a fighting stance and were ready to face me. This made me certain they weren't just two people out for a walk. They were clearly after me. It felt much easier than dealing with Anna. Just by not recognizing their faces, by not knowing them, it made things easier. I smiled wryly on the inside. What do you want with me? Next one is going to be right in your face, you bastard. It's fine if it was just a bluff. By barking out at them, I was finally able to fire myself up, but without the finally. They didn't respond. They spread out to either side of me with unbelievably calm expressions on their faces. One of them would grab onto my bat and the other would hold me down. Was that their plan? Taking on both of them at once would be impossible. Hot sweat poured from every pore in my body. Did I just have to settle it with the first move? I'd step in and strike the first one down. Narrowing my target down to the man on the right who had already been knocked down once before, I stepped in and swung with all my might. There's no way for an unarmed person to guard against it. It would cause immense damage. If they blocked it with their arm, the bone would snap like a twig. If they turned their back to it, then it was possible that the blow would travel all the way to their vital organs. It looked like he was aware of this. He pushed farther through the kill zone between us and delivered a fist right into my gut. Not good with this distance, in this position, and in this state. There was no way for me to dodge it. The world flipped upside down. I understood that I was being tossed around like a rag doll. I landed on the soft earth with that bound, feeling the grainy soil press against my face. It didn't hurt at all. But the moment I thought that, I suddenly felt pain coming from the abrasions on my skin, as well as the contents of my stomach being forced upwards, flooding my mouth with a bitter sensation. I knew very well that I didn't have the time to relish this experience. I stood up as quickly as I could, but at that moment the other man was already barreling towards me. Being able to comprehend calmly that I simply couldn't dodge it made it all the more upsetting. After plowing into my stomach full force, once again my assailant twisted around behind me and then... sorry. Locked his thick arm around my neck. My throat felt like it was being crushed by his immense strength. I couldn't even contemplate that I was being strangled or that I was about to go unconscious. My vision simply darkened and a silent whining noise began playing deep inside my mind. I took everything I had to keep myself from blacking out. While this was happening, the other man was more than likely standing in front of me. I wasn't able to open my eyes, but I could feel that he was there. There was nothing I could do now. Unable to shake this arm off me, I couldn't run, I couldn't fight back. Dire straits, I couldn't even come up with the phrase that adequately described my situation. Nani? A familiar ceiling. The smell of the bed and pillow. I knew them well. This? My room? Normally there wouldn't be anyone in my room besides me. But their presence made me spring right awake. When I did that, pain shot through my entire body. Feeling alright? I think you'd better just lie down for a bit. Why was Anna in my room? Blood began to surge through my muscles and my capillaries. But Anna's smile belonged to the Rena I knew well. I knew I shouldn't let myself feel this way. But I relaxed, thinking that this version of Rena was safe. Wait, don't you remember? After losing consciousness, nothing at all. My body had become more lethargic than I could have ever imagined. I guess that would be the expected outcome after exerting everything I had back there. I tried to at least clear my head. I just couldn't shake the sluggish feeling out of my mind. I called the doctor. He should be here soon. I think you'd better just lie down until then. I wasn't injured seriously enough to merit calling a doctor. But knowing that someone impartial was coming was slightly ridiculous. Why am I here? Sure, I was at the dam site. That's what I want to know. What happened? When I got there, Keiichi-kun was already passed out. That's why I'm the one who wants to know. I was attacked by two weirdos. I talked about it. I finally remembered what happened right before I passed out. Recalling that memory and the terror that went along with it caused the fogginess around my head to clear right up. Let's forget about those two for now. I didn't expect Rena to be nursing me. I thought Rena was trying to kill me. She would have had the perfect chance while I was unconscious. Not only did she not kill me, she had nursed me back to health. Amazing. She dragged me all the way back here. Wasn't I heavy? Looking at Rena's delicate frame, it was hard to believe that she not only had gotten me back home, but even dragged me all the way up to the second floor. And didn't I break all your fingers, like, barely 24 hours ago now? You have some help? You remember, Keiichi-kun? Rena appeared a bit surprised, but still kept her smile. I only propped you up on my shoulder. You said you could walk on your own and that you were fine. Don't remember? I didn't remember. My memory was fuzzy after the point where I lost consciousness. What about those two? Huh? When you got there, Rena, the ones with me, or rather those two guys. There wasn't anyone. She said it bluntly. The way she stated it felt slightly unpleasant. I was just too timid at that time. Might have been able to force some answers out of Rena. If I did that, then this kind Rena might transform into the scary Rena who I didn't know. Hearing that, I didn't press any further. Thinking about it was the obvious choice. If both of those men were there, I don't think Rena would even have stood a chance. I couldn't find a way to explain it unless I assumed she brought me here after those two were already gone. Rena was still smiling. Her eyes sparkled warmly. Yet, I felt like I was hallucinating when I saw something. Something akin to a shadow slowly creeping across her face. Small omen. That small omen. It shivers down my spine. Just needed a drink. Elena was still Elena. I needed to make contact. I needed to contact ooishi-san. And it stopped me when I tried to get out of bed. He said it would aggravate my wounds, so I should sleep. I'd like to go to the bathroom, though. Sorry. And I couldn't say anything else. While Elena stayed in the room, I quietly went downstairs to get the phone receiver in the living room. When I approached the front door, the doorbell rang. Ding dong! Must have been the doctor Elena had called. It was strange for a patient to welcome in the doctor who was making a house call, but it would be incredibly reassuring to have him here for the considerable time it would take ooishi-san to get here. I carelessly opened the door with that simple assumption, and regretted it almost instantly. Mion! Oh, you look just fine. I heard you collapsed, so I came to check up on you. How did you know I collapsed? I heard from Nana over the phone. Do I need any reason other than that? I understood why she would call it doctor, but why Mion too? Nana was descending the stairs behind me. Yeah, doesn't Kei-chan look pretty alright? She made me worry for nothing. That's true. Maybe I worried for nothing as well. They both began laughing. It appeared to be cheerful laughter, but I couldn't shake the feeling that there was a darkness looming over them. Oh, what's up with this shoe rack? How did it get like this? The shoe rack that I'd smashed to pieces had been like that since yesterday. I fell, you see, and the bat I was holding at the time slammed into it. This is what happens when you swing around something you're not used to handling. I kept the fact that it was none of her business to myself. Giving it like this will really startle your parents when they get home. I'll fix it up for you later. Now, come on, Kei-chan. The terminally ill need their rest. Oh, that's not a good choice of words. Come, back in bed. Both of them urged me up the stairs. I had no chance to call ooishi-san. I was pushed into my bed. It was the first time Mion had been in my room. He began searching around it intently. He fiddled around my room and was scolded by it, and you can imagine how it went. It was uncomfortable having my room poked around, but the conversation was so benign that it was heartwarming. During that innocent conversation, Mion said something as though it was perfectly ordinary. Anna, did you call the manager? Ah! That's right. That's how this went. Yep. Right after I called Mii-chan. He said he'd be right over. Manager? That out-of-place word gave me a bad feeling. And I called a doctor, then called Mion. And after that, she called a manager? Who is this manager? And on Mion's conversation was so peaceful, it only felt slightly odd. What are you two talking about? Who's this manager? Didn't you know, Kei-chan? We mean the manager when we say manager. Like a director of a movie, or like a foreman of a construction site. I dug through all my memories for a manager who might have business with me. Only one thing came to mind. What Vanna had just said. The construction site foreman. The very first victim of the first incident. The dismemberment at the damn construction site. The foreman. That was strange. He was supposed to be dead. There's no way they could call him. I don't understand what you guys are talking about. What does that manager have to do with me? You said he was coming. Did you mean to my house? I asked one obvious question after another, but all the two of them did was smile coolly at each other. There was a huge difference between how the two of them appeared and how my suspicions were playing out. Slowly, I felt discomfort and panic welling up inside me. I didn't understand what Vanna and Mion were talking about. Hey, Chan, you've gotten into baseball lately, haven't you? Pretty sure the manager will be happy to hear that. So, who is this manager? The manager is the manager! So, who is this manager? Anna and Mion looked at each other, laughed audibly. A disturbing cackle unpleasantly resounded around me. That laugh, long enough to be unsettling, ended abruptly. Oh, yeah, we should finish up before the manager comes. You remember, don't you, Kei-chan? Her face was laughing, but Mion's eyes told a difference. Remember? Remember what? Keiichi-kun, had he forgotten, I wonder? About the penalty. About the penalty? Did you really forget the homework with the mochi? The homework where you were supposed to guess which one Nena made? You forgot about that homework, didn't you? I certainly did have that homework. I'd thrown away the rest of the mochi after I found that sewing needle. So I wasn't able to answer which one Nena made. The penalty for that? Why now? No doubt my question was written all over my face. Their answer to my question was that dry laughter. I could no longer make heads or tails of anything. I began to think that this entire day was somehow insane, strange, incomprehensible. Be chased by Nena, attacked by strange men. The penalty Mion and Nena were talking about. What were these two laughing at? It didn't take that long for me to realize I had been dragged into an abnormal situation. Who were these two? Who were these people? Who were these doppelgangers of Rena and Mion? Rena had gotten behind me at some point. Why was she pinning my arms behind my back? What are you doing? Don't move. This is your penalty. My body was already very sluggish, and then pinning my arms made it that much harder to move. I seriously tried to struggle, but she wouldn't even budge. My panic began to well up, and I realized this was well beyond the realm of jokes and pleasantries. This freakishly monstrous strength, it would have been impossible for the Rena I knew. Then, these thin, frail arms grasping me firmly. Whose arms were they? Kei-chan, no struggling. Club rules. There are no exceptions. You can't fight against the penalty. Mion, no, that thing that looked like Mion spoke to me like how Mion would speak to me, but I was certain that this was not Mion. Someone who wasn't Mion. Someone who was just pretending to be Mion. Need to finish this up before the manager comes. Mion fished into her pockets and pulled out something bizarre. I could tell what it was just by looking, but for such a thing to be in her pocket, my mind wouldn't accept it. What is that? It was a small syringe. It was a small, clear syringe, like what a doctor would use when you went to him when you were sick. Rena held me even tighter. I could hear that clattering laughter. It no longer sounded like laughter, blaring into my ear. You know what? I should have done this a while ago. 1 second. That eerie laughter. It wasn't something that the Rena I knew could ever produce from her own throat. This thing that was pretending to be Rena. Was this their real laugh? Unable to defend myself, the syringe Mion was holding drew closer. And that needle tip was waved in front of my face countless times. Don't worry, don't worry. It won't hurt. It won't hurt. What are you planning on doing? What kind of sick joke is this? What are you saying, Kei-chan? You know exactly what's going on, don't you? About what? I don't understand any of this at all. I know you know. No use playing the fool this late in the game. Stop talking nonsense to try to confuse me. I'm going to have done to you what happened to Tomitake-san. What? The same as Tomitake-san? I didn't really understand what she meant. What did that have to do with this syringe? You're playing dumb, Keiichi-kun. You should have realized it by now. Peered into my ear, laughing, as if to admonish me. But even the way she spoke was repulsive beyond compare. Dumb? Me? About what? What do you mean the same as Tomitake-san? Everyone thought at first that it was a hit and run. Except when the officer got closer to check if he was still alive, he soon noticed that it wasn't a normal situation. His throat was scratched out. From a knife or something? No. Nails. Nails? Nails as in his fingernails? Those? Pouched through? That's right. Tomitake-san had clawed out his own throat with his own nails and died. There's no way someone could die like that. But then for that to happen, we thought drugs were to blame, but nothing of that nature was detected. That's right. The police didn't find any drugs in Tomitake-san's system. The police told me they didn't find any drugs in Tomitake-san's body. The two of them laughed together with that sickening laughter. Of course they'd laugh. To assume that such a medicine didn't exist just because the police didn't know about it. It was completely foolish. Meaning, the drug that caused Tomitake-san to die in such a bizarre manner did exist. If Mion injected this into me, then that would probably be all the proof I needed. That would basically mean I'd end up the same as Tomitake-san. Become hysterical, scratching out my throat in my last moments, and die. Such an outrageous drug to exist. For Mion to be holding it, and that I was about to be injected with it. At that moment, I did not feel there was any need whatsoever to question it. What kind of idiot, when he's trying to dodge a ball flying straight for his face, has time to think of a reason as to why it's flying at him? Just give up. Alright then. Mion's actions lacked any gravitas. That made it even more terrifying. There was none of the ceremony like when someone is sentenced to death. There was no hesitation at all, as if she were brushing her teeth. Mion reached out with one hand and grabbed onto my chest. It felt like electricity had run through the back of my head and the entire world had gone dark. Did I stand up too fast, or did something really hit me really hard in the back of the head? Having lost my sense of balance, I was assaulted by a wave of dizziness. Oh, that's how they're doing it, huh? Whew. Alright. Squatted down for a bit. Came back to my senses. My entire room had changed drastically. The numbness in my head was gone, and slowly I could tell blood was flowing to my extremities again. How long had I been squatting here? How many minutes? Or has it been hours? It was almost as if the hands on the clock had stopped moving the entire time my eyes were closed. That's how little time had passed. Really? The air in the room wasn't filled with that madness from before. Only a dull silence. Rina wasn't there pinning my arm. Mion wasn't there about to inject me with a needle. No way. He? All of it hallucination? There's no other presence in that room besides my own. It was the weirdest experience I'd ever had. I was certainly with Neon. I doubted my sanity for a moment. I was also seized with some sort of comfort. Haha, yes, that ordeal was hallucination. And that Neon wouldn't ever do something so terrible. And I, I could tell my emotions were welling up. Why? That wasn't a reason to cry. I was sorrow. Or was I sad? And I don't understand. Kind to everyone, not discriminating against age or gender. Neon. That Neon was sprawled by the window in an unnatural pose. Blood stained her a deep red, head down to her chest. Bright crimson smeared on the walls. That splatter had undoubtedly come from Neon. He always had that bright smile and was kind to me from the day I transferred. Rena. That same Rena was slumped at my feet and was making the same pool of blood as Neon. Couldn't comprehend what had happened. Did they me? Didn't they these two down? This metal bat? Finally noticed the weight in my right hand. How long had it been there? It was Satoshi's bat. It was covered. There was no doubt that this was the weapon used to mutilate both of them. And I was holding that weapon. I was the only person in the house. What? Looking at this objectively, I couldn't think of anyone other than myself who could have done it. I? Yes. That's right. I bought a cake. Of course I did it. I told myself gently, as if coaxing myself. Hey, me. There is no reason for you to remember it, nor is there a need to regret it, or be eaten. Get that, don't you? But the blood, so much. Neither Fena nor Mion had moved an inch. It wasn't just a split forehead, a trickle of blood, nothing that simple. The entire room was splattered with red, and that told me it didn't end with 2 or 3 strikes. Dead? With them? The depths of my mind were calm, but on the surface I was panicking and agitated. Calm down, my Baragechi. Back to your usual calm self. Come on now, like you always do. Deep breath. Come on. Twice. Calm down. Calm down. Chanted that over and over in my head. Relax. Color came back to my vision and smells reinfused the air. At the same time, I remember what happened when I blacked out. Rena and Mion had attacked me. They were about to inject me with whatever caused the same symptoms as Tomitake-san. Right before that happened, I fought back. I twisted my whole body and threw Rena as she was pinning my arms. I then followed through with my spin and rammed my foot as hard as I could into Mion's torso. It was soft. Rena tried jumping on me, so I tackled her as hard as I could and slammed her against the wall. I didn't let that brief moment of having them off balance slip by. Satoshi's bat that was left carelessly by the side of my desk. Weep. That moment, everything went pitch black. There was nothing recorded past this point in the videotape of my mind. No, that wasn't right. It wasn't that there was nothing recorded. It was recorded just fine. Just the other me inside myself told me not to look and had turned off the TV. Just because the screen had gone black and I couldn't see it didn't mean that the videotape within me hadn't recorded it. The TV was just off. The video was still playing. The tape within me, creaking along, still playing. On the other end of that pitch black screen, that horrifying video was still playing on. Compared to this, though, this, the scene right before my eyes, still so difficult to take in. There was blood splattered everywhere on the wall, the two of them in these unnatural poses, not a sign of movement from them. I couldn't even tell if they were breathing, no matter what the circumstances were. My friends, these girls, I had attacked them. I have even killed them. But if I hadn't done this, I would have been the one done for. Balancing that out on an imaginary scale, it felt odd that I'd even feel bad about it. Even if it was a bit excessive. This was justifiable self-defense. Proof was all here. The two of them collapsed here, and beyond syringe filled with some unknown drug would certainly solve the mystery surrounding the incident with Tomitake-san. From the fact that both of these two were involved and be able to pick out the criminals one after the other. Still, I might be suspected for this, but I was just fine. Anyway, now this should be a police matter. This wouldn't fade into the darkness like Nina's past incidents. As long as the police were involved, that should bring this to a close. They'll probably revisit their investigation on the chain of incidents. Ooishi-san would definitely get to the bottom of it. Meaning my wish, not wanting to die, but wanting to know the truth, that would be fulfilled in its most basic form. All a matter of time now. The doctor Nina called should be getting here soon. I'll confess everything to him. I needed to contact Ooishi-san. That moment, I remembered. Besides the doctor, a manager had been called. It was easy to imagine that they were someone deeply involved with the incidents, judging from Mirena and Mion's conversation. The ache in my chest, caused by the gruesome deed I'd done, dissipated rapidly. It was not over yet. This place was no longer safe. It calmed my Abarakechi. Not over yet. I need to live long enough to tell the police of this incident. At that moment, I felt like I heard someone's voice from outside. People were speaking. It must mean there was more than one person. I moved the curtain ever so slightly and peered outside. It was a bizarre sight. About 4 or 5 grown men were all gathered at the gate. They very much resembled the 2 men who had assaulted me at the dam site. Those 2 might even be among them. There was one person there wearing a white coat, but he didn't look like a doctor at all. My gut told me he was in disguise, only posing as a doctor. That guy would probably ring the bell and get me to open the front door. I pretend to be a doctor to get me to open the door, and then the rest of them would all rush in at once. At that moment, I saw the car parked behind the Ben, and my heart nearly skipped a beat. The white van! No mistaking it. That van. The one that had tried to run me down? The man in the white coat entered the gate and headed towards the front door. The rest of the men hid in the bushes and watched him. I probably couldn't pretend that I wasn't home. Undoubtedly, they'd just break the windows and enter. I needed to get out of here somehow, then use a public phone and contact ooishi-san. Then meet up somewhere. First of all, I need a weapon, then shoes. But before all of that, there was one thing I had to do. I had no intention of dying. I'd live. Reveal the truth about all this nonsensical curse of Oyashiro-sama. But what would happen from here on, regardless of how determined I was, may bring about my demise, and that was why there's one thing more important than getting out of here right now. I need to get that clock out quickly and take the note hidden behind it. Take down the note hidden behind it. Damn it. The tape was sticking to it fast. It'd be fine if I was torn a little. I opened up slightly torn note and began writing another passage with a ballpoint pen. I wasn't able to inform Ooishi-san, and the only thing I could rely on was this note. I never thought a piece of torn, college-ruled notebook paper could be this reliable before. I had no time. I'd only write what I knew right now. I needed to leave some sort of information that would lead them to uncover the truth. Anna and Mion are conspirators of the perpetrators. This was an undeniable fact. I still didn't want to believe it. It was a fact! Anyway, I'd leave all the information that would help lead them to finding the perpetrators. There are 4 or 5 adults, maybe more. They have a white van. This was everything I was able to see from the window. There may be more. Also, was that unidentified person known as the manager. And again, with the term manager, didn't even mesh with hinamizawa at all. If they were going to include the managers from the past incidents, then the only one is the construction foreman, the victim of the first murder. The very first victim in the chain of incidents. Killed in a lynching, his body divided into 6 pieces. His right arm was never discovered. The police should have confirmed that death. But Rena and Mion did both call him manager. They said manager. They wouldn't use that term to refer to someone who was dead. Police would never even conceive that someone who was deceased could be involved. Could that be sort of oversight? I didn't know. But even if I didn't know, it could be a big hint for Ooishi-san. That's right. He needed to start fresh from the first incident. It wasn't just a simple dismemberment, but the start of this string of mysterious deaths that would follow. So, then, there must be something hidden there. Please reinvestigate the victim of the dismemberment incident. He's alive. His death should have been established after an autopsy. Logically, you would think as much. Was that really the case? Could it have been some sort of ploy that they were able to deceive the police with? Shouldn't jump to conclusions, but he may still be alive. I had no time to ponder that right now. Oh, yeah, there's something even more important I needed to write. Umitake-san's death was from an unknown drug. That's right. That drug. It was an irreplaceable piece of evidence. No doubt, just by having this, everything would be uncovered. I couldn't just leave that vital clue lying on the floor. This syringe is proof. Writing that down, I stuck the syringe onto the back of the clock with plenty of tape. So it absolutely would not slip out and fall to the floor firmly. Firmly! Ding dong. The bell rang. They were here. I couldn't write any more, but even still, there was one last thing that I had to write. I have no idea why it has become like this. This may be the closest thing to the truth out of everything I wrote on that note. If you are reading this, then I am probably already dead. So you may or may not find my body. I was going to write out everything that could happen. By dying from the curse or being demoned away. You who are reading this, please uncover the truth. That is my only desire. With this, my last will and testament was complete. I wasn't certain that I was going to die, but it was my final plea, just in case. I folded the note, stuck it back onto the back of the clock, and returned the clock to its usual spot. I couldn't help but pray. Ooishi-san, if something happens to me, I leave the rest to you. Or is it, I'm just gonna have my drink of water. 1 second, sorry. After that, I gazed down silently at Rena and Mion. This was probably the last time we'd ever see each other. Rena, Mion, I really had thought all of us were friends. But I didn't like this. I never had any fun in my previous school. If the school I hoped to get into was where I really wanted to go or a safety net. That was all I talked about. It was a dull life. The people I called friends were also my rivals in studying and competitions and personal records and standardized test scores. Everyone here taught me how unhealthy that lifestyle was. This month was really fun. Making a fuss over lunch, making a fuss over the club, making a fuss over the festival. Something hot began dripping from my face. Uncontrollable tears. I should have no obligation to shed tears for them. But they wouldn't stop. Even if they were after my life. Even if they were trying to kill me. Everything that happened this month. I wouldn't forget it. Could it be? Those happy days? Were all a facade as well? Was it all a trap? Meticulously orchestrated up until today to ensnare me? Could it be? Could it have been that I had just arbitrarily assumed that they were my friends? That couldn't have been the case. With Rena and Mion. They really were my friends. Those happy days. There was nothing fake or unclear about them. Someone probably forced them to try to kill me. Or their minds were taken over, possessed by the supernatural entity known as Yoyashiro-sama. Regardless, with Rena and Mion, they were the best friends ever. And when they were coming after me, it wasn't of their own volition. Wait, they weren't the kind of people to sell off their friends, regardless of whether or not they were forced. There was no way such a thing like being possessed by Oyashiro-sama could happen in reality. Then, did the real Rena and Mion come after me? What was I thinking? What a silly, dumb idea. Having beaten both Rena and Mion, I was still debating if they were the real ones or fakes. There was no real or fake. Only the reality that was before me. Rena and Mion were sprawled out at my feet. That was the only truth. I was only trying to twist the facts to my benefit. That I had beaten my friends to death. No matter how I spun it, it wouldn't change reality. Rena and Mion were both dead. It felt like there was a crack in the dam of strange emotions I was holding back. It felt like my calm state, which was nothing more than a bluff, had receded, and in that opening, insanity was leaking out. I killed them. I killed them. Rena and Mion. I killed them. The doorbell rang again. The unrelenting echo pulled me back into a state of composure once again. I didn't have a moment to spare. Quickly, I needed to get away. I didn't want to die. I would uncover everything after that. The identity of whoever or whatever had pushed me this far. Even if I had to drink mud and eat grass, I would survive. I would survive. I would definitely survive. I killed Rena for that very reason. I also killed Mion. I went that far just to keep living. So I can't die. For my sake, and for the sake of the late Rena and Mion. I have to survive! I ran towards the door and grabbed my shoes. The doorbell rang again, as if to urge me on. Behind the single, solitary door, they were there. Keeping quiet, I headed towards the kitchen, headed towards the back door. Before opening the back door, I put my ear to it and checked the people outside. No one? After I put on my shoes, I opened the door slowly as to not make a sound. There he is! The back door! A piercing voice echoed out. That voice stabbed through me, setting my hair on end. I had to run. Get out of here, Keiichi! One after the other, I felt stuff like rationale and intelligence. Those things you use when you have time to spare spill out of me. I didn't feel any pain from the branches scratching my arms and forehead. My autonomously pulsing heart also felt neither fatigue nor pain. My entire being just wished to live. There was nothing else it desired. It probably had no complaints whatsoever, so of course I wouldn't feel fatigue. I just ran. Just recklessly rushing in the direction I was already heading. Even if nobody was chasing after me, I'd still be running like this. There wasn't a thought in my mind about where I was headed. Turning around, I felt a presence right next to me. That presence was, without a doubt, chasing me like my shadow. If I took even one misstep, I would be devoured. That's what I thought. So I didn't turn around. I didn't stop. I ran at full speed. That was the chirping of the Higurashi telling me it was evening. Trying to tell me something, and then I finally heard it. The wailing cry of the victims who didn't make it. Would I be joining them? Only the Higurashi knew. They knew everything. They definitely knew. So, I ran towards where I could hear more of the Higurashi's chirps. But the farther I ran, the farther away their chirping became. I couldn't get near them. Why are you all running away? Was it my fault? Was I the one to blame? Then I'll apologize. I'm sorry. 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 Sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Oh, but only the Higurashi knew. The smoking room was filled with a cloud of cigarette smoke. The expensive smoke filter gave off some crackling electric noise, but it didn't seem like it was doing anything at all. Why do smokers have to be shoved so far down this corridor where the sun didn't even reach? I recalled hearing that the tax revenue from tobacco was about 1/10 of the municipality's revenue. We were the most heavily taxed members of this municipality. I really wish they'd show us a little more respect. Would you discard the 5 manzu there? Just decreasing your options. One of the younger detectives was having a staring contest with the Mahjong magazine called Next Turn. You're still in Tenpai if you cut the 5 manzu. If you're betting on a high te, then shouldn't you be going in with a mangan? Uma-chan, look at the pond. They all discarded a 5 manzu. It's a safe tile. You'd hate it if, at endgame, someone was sitting on a tenpai on the last turn, wouldn't you? The kid let out another groan, put out a cigarette, and then took out another one. Just don't agree. Why would you reduce your own option? By the way, you can't call it on with your winnings pile that in that taite. What? Why is that? Just then, I heard a voice coming from down the hall. Are you here, ooishi-san? You have a call from a civilian. Whoa, ain't that something? Well, see you soon. Why can't you call Ron on it? Hold on for a second, ooishi-san. The man sitting in the seat ooishi-san was heading towards waved at the telephone receiver. Outside line from a payphone. Oh, why thank you. Sorry to keep you waiting. This is Oishi. What is it? Oishi-san! Hello.
If it isn't Mayabara-san, why, good evening. From the tone Mayabara, from the tone of Mayabara-kun's voice, I already knew he was in a predicament. This was the first time Mayabara-kun had phoned me, but he was calling from a payphone. Please calm down. Did something happen? Well, His voice was erratic over the line. He had completely lost his sense of composure. After checking that nobody else could hear, I prompted him in a hushed tone. What happened? Calm down, Mayabara-san. I can have the local officers head to your location. I'll be there soon, too. I think that's impossible. His voice was quivering and hoarse. He wasn't surrounded by people, even as he was making this call, was he? Mayabara-san, you're calling from a payphone right now, right? Where is that payphone? There were other sounds besides Mayabara-kun's voice. It had to be a phone booth. I scratched out a note and thrust it at my colleague sitting across from me. Hinamizawa, phone booth. He understood quickly and hastily started on the internal lines. Calm down, Mayabara-san. What is your current situation? It usually wasn't a good idea to tell someone panicking to do so. This was not a usual case. Mayabara-kun didn't just get in trouble, get away, and then call me. He was in the midst of something dangerous right now. But feeling that Mayabara-kun right now would just needlessly cause him to be even more frantic. Mayabara-kun wasn't just calling to seek help. He was trying to tell us something more than that. And whatever that was, if I didn't get it from this call, I was certain that there would never be another chance. My colleague pushed a note in front of me. There's only one booth in Hinamizawa. A patrol car is on the way. 5 minutes. It's too long. How many officers are in there? 2. Enough. It was as I imagined. There were likely quite a few people surrounding Mayabara-kun. 5 minutes was too long. Did you call the officer stationed in Hinamizawa? He's scheduled to be on patrol. They're currently out and it'll be impossible to contact them. God damn! Kuma-chan, bring the car around. Understood! Hello? Ooishi-san. Hello. It's all right. I can hear you loud and clear. There was something wrong with Mayabara-kun. That wasn't a normal coughing sound. Vomiting? Or was it blood? Had he already been attacked? Was he injured? Mayabara-san, the police are on their way. They'll be there in a couple of minutes, so hold on somehow. Hello? Can you hear me? Mayabara-san! I could hear on the other end of the line that he was having a coughing fit. The worst possible situation popped into my head. Mayabara-san, who is the culprit? How many are there? I thought... At first the culprit was human. I couldn't tell if that was a cough or vomiting. Are you alright, Mayabara-san? I thought that the culprit was a person, and not Oyashiro-sama's curse. Up until right now. But I guess in the end... It was a tense bout of coughing and vomiting. But... yes, Oyashiro-sama does exist. Oh, he's... here. Mayabara-san, please. Please calm down. I had been thinking it was strange for a while now. It's been following me this whole time. I run and run and run and run. But it just sticks to me like a shadow. Slowly. So slowly. It's digging itself into my back. Mayabara-san, are they, right now, perhaps, right behind you? Behind me. Right behind me. Please, Mayabara-san, I can tell you're scared. But please, who is it that's right behind you? I can't just look behind me. If I do, I understand that you're scared, but please tell me. You just need to turn around a bit. Who is it? Who is behind you, Mayabara-san? Right after I said that, I could hear him vomiting intensely. What followed was a nightmarish sound. Mayabara-san, it couldn't be that you're clawing out your own throat. There was no answer, but I could hear something like scratching. There was a bang, as if something was being hit. Mayabara-kun had probably dropped the receiver. I could hear groaning and vomiting over the other end of a repeating, abnormal noise. Hello? Hello! Mayabara-san, hello! I knew how far away my voice would sound on the other end, but I couldn't help but shout. At that moment, I heard whispering coming from the other end. I couldn't tell what he was saying. From the way he was saying it, was he talking to himself? Or was he talking to someone there? Hello? Higurashi-san? Rather than whisper. Some kind of mantra he was chanting. Over and over. I focused my senses, trying to pick up what he was saying. What was he repeating? What exactly? Beep! Suddenly the line went dead. Did he use up his time? It was because it was a payphone! It was because it cut out so abruptly. The last thing he said came out so clearly in my mind. Ooishi-san, the car is good to go. Ooishi-san! I'm sorry. Ooishi-san? That's what he was repeating over and over. He said, I'm sorry. I had a gut feeling. There was no longer a need to hurry. I could hear the chirp of the Higurashi spilling in from the open window. Queen, 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 queen. I should have been able to hear them this entire time. I just wasn't paying any attention. Why did I focus on them all of a sudden? Queen, 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 queen. Were they trying to tell me something? Only the Higurashi knew. That's how I felt. July 1983. In Hinamizawa, a remote village near Shishibone City, there was a murder involving 2 female students. The suspect is Maibarakechi, subject 1X. The subject called over his 2 female classmates, Yugonena and Sonozakamiyan, to his house and beat them to death with a metal bat. The scene of the crime was the suspect's room on the 2nd floor of his house. Inside of the room was covered with a significant quantity of splattered blood, and there were signs of a struggle with the victims. In addition to the scene of the crime, the entranceway, living room, and kitchen all had traces of a struggle. At the entranceway, the shoe rack and wall had evidence of being impacted by a strong blunt force. It is believed to have been the same bat as the murder weapon. Having no traces of blood, it is believed destruction occurred before the murders. There is the possibility that the suspect overpowered his victims to keep them from fleeing. In the living room, the rug had been pulled back, then thrown aside. It is hard to believe that this had a connection to the struggle with the victims, and thus the reason for this remains unknown. He was looking for the needle. In the kitchen, the garbage bag was torn apart and its contents were spread around the floor. Garbage was thrown about in the surrounding area, and handprints believed to belong to the suspect were discovered. It is believed that the suspect had, for some reason, taken out the garbage and struck it with his fists. Reasons for this remains unknown. He was looking for the needle. In addition, there was a note stuck to the fridge. The words, "Was there a needle?" were written on it. The meaning behind this remains unclear. Just in case, the garbage was searched, but a needle was not discovered. Though the garage door was functional, it had been left open ever since the suspect moved in. The garage door was found closed. The suspect's fingerprints were discovered on the garage door. The reason behind this remains unknown. The suspect fled the scene of the crime. However, a patrolling officer, hinamizawa local PD, found the suspect collapsed inside a phone booth. At the time of discovery, the suspect was unconscious in critical condition. He was rushed to the local hospital for treatment, but did not regain consciousness and died 24 hours later. The results of the autopsy indicate the immediate cause of death to have been hypovolemic shock. It was determined that the suspect had clawed at his own throat with his fingernails, and the resulting bleeding caused his death. With a similarity to the death of Tomitake-san the prior week, the police believe there to be a connection and to have opened an investigation. However, due to the wishes of local authorities, it will be a confidential investigation. Due to the abnormal nature of the death, it was suspected that drugs were involved, but as with Tomitake-san, no nature was found.
What prompted all this remains inexplicable. As such, this case is being treated as an act committed on an impulse. However, with several accounts of the suspect's bizarre behavior leading up to the incident... Damn it! Go back, I was reading! It is possible this was premeditated, separated from his group of friends, isolation, inexplicable behavior. Several days before the incident, the suspect began carrying around a metal bat. The suspect was observed displaying aggressive behavior as well as talking to himself at school. His classmates have actually heard portions of what he was saying. 2 days before the incident, the suspect declared to his parents the possibility of his death. Due to these circumstances, the police have begun an investigation on the possibility that this crime was not committed on impulse, but was instead planned several days in advance. Afterwards, a note was found in the suspect's room that he had written himself. The note was written on 2 sheets from a B5 college rule notebook that each had been torn in half. As if trying to conceal it, it was stuck behind a clock, hidden behind a clock on the wall. The contents are as written in the appendix. The police believe it to be strongly related to the incident. The police changed their line of investigation based on the possibility that the suspect was involved in some sort of incident himself. However, no further clues were found, casting doubt on the credibility of the note. Was the crime impulsive or premeditated? With the situation unclear and no further developments, the case has been labeled as unresolved. However, the following year, suspicion arose regarding the nature of the note. The note was not written on 2 halves of B5 paper from 2 separate sheets, but was originally a single sheet of B5 paper. In order to erase several lines from the middle, someone had torn them out. Judging from the size of the letters, the missing section is estimated to be 2 to 3 lines. It is highly probable that the person who eliminated the lines in question is not the suspect. In addition, judging from the traces of large quantities of cellophane tape being stuck to the back of the clock, the speculation is that something other than the note was stuck. Go back. Something other than the note was stuck there has arisen. The person who first discovered the crime was a detective rumored to be a connection with the incident, Fernando Ooishi. He underwent voluntary questioning, but denies involvement in any damages to the note. The suspect's note. I, Keiichi Maibara, am in fear for my life. Do not know why they are after my life. The only thing I do know is that it has to do with Oyashiro-sama's curse. Anna and Mion are conspirators of the perpetrators. There are 4 or 5 adults, maybe more. They have a white van. This is all on the first sheet. Everything below this has been ripped out. This is from the second sheet. Everything above this has been ripped out. I have no idea. Oh no! Yeah, all the good shit! I have no idea why it has become like this. If you're reading this, I am already dead, though the only difference may be the presence or lack of body. You who are reading this, please uncover the truth. That is my only desire. Maibara Keiichi. A new scenario has been unlocked. Oh, did this one not have a fancy credits? Is it an extra? Oh, this will be fun. Thank you for buying Higurashi When They Cry, Onikakushi. A visual novel by 7th Expansion. How was it? If you enjoyed it even a little bit, it would make me happy. Even a little bit is stretching it. That incredibly dark ending made me angry, you know? Made us angry. As I understand it, this Onikakushi chapter is supposed to be somewhat of a prologue to the entire series. How could the prologue have such an incredibly dark ending? Yeah, but doesn't that just happen sometimes? The player digging through the story in order to avoid a bad ending is the point of these types of games, after all. It's still just the first chapter. I'm looking forward to the next one.
What happens in the next chapter? Rena, do you know? Yeah, they said the next chapter will introduce another aspect of the story. And that's a strange way of putting it, but what does that mean? In this chapter, they introduced the string of mysterious deaths that were happening in Hinamizawa recently, right? The next chapter will introduce some of the history of Hinamizawa. With one strange event happening after another, I got totally lost. What exactly is Oyashiro-sama's curse about? Actually, what is Oyashiro-sama to begin with? They didn't explain it much. I haven't heard much about it, but I kind of have a bad feeling about it. It feels like it'll be another one of those scary stories when somebody gets cursed again. Tough luck, eh, Kei-chan? What kind of curse is he gonna get hit with this time? However, I am looking forward to seeing what kind of story it's going to be. Sorry for being late. My bad, my bad. Hey everybody! Good work today! Same to you, huh? Where's Kei-chan? Kei-chan is already off reading the script for the next chapter. It must be hard being the main character. Huh. That's too bad. Could have at least poked in to say hello. It's probably because he doesn't have any character arc, so he couldn't poke his head in even if he wanted to. Mika-san, that's what we refer to as a personal problem. In any case, this story was a lot of trouble, especially for Keiichikun and Rena-chan. Trouble? That was the mother of all bad ends! Oh girl, you have no idea. I wonder, what was the identity of the thing that attacked Keiichikun? My theory is that it was the work of people made to look like a curse. At the end, Keiichi made that phone call. Yeah, I also thought that call was strange. At that point, Kei-chan should have been certain that the culprits were people. That really was a strange phone call. It almost sounded like he was being chased by a ghost or something. Just from that phone call, it really makes me think that it was the work of a curse after all. Since we're all here, why don't we all share our theories? Let's start with Sonozaki-san. I absolutely believe it was people. I think it was a man-made incident that was just imitating the strange folklore surrounding Hinamizawa. Certainly, every year on the day of the festival, for another link in the chain of mysterious deaths to happen certainly is suspicious. That so-called chain of mysterious deaths is definitely somebody trying to reenact the folklore. Definitely. I think it was the curse. Looking at the scene where Keiichi-san went berserk in the entryway and the last scene with the phone call, I just couldn't come to the conclusion that a person was the culprit. When you say it that way, it really wasn't the type of scene that would make you think it was the work of an actual person. Yeah, but even then, I still think it was a person who did it. That last scene in the Northy entryway, I think it might have been a delusional episode brought about by post-traumatic stress disorder. I wouldn't know what's going on anymore, even if you didn't use such complicated words. I wonder if Ryukishi had already decided whether or not Stantoko kind of has PTSD, so like I don't know. I just find it's interesting that's anyway. In other words, Keiichi was so scared that he was imagining things. Then what was the meaning behind that scene? And what exactly was that mysterious presence behind Keiichi? A red herring. R-E-D-H-E-R-R-I-N-G. Hey, Chan, what do you mean by a red herring? Like old man Tomitaka here said, That scene was the result of Kei-chan having a stress-induced delusion from being mentally cornered. To expand on that a bit further, it was a ploy to make the player think it was a curse. That's why it was a red herring. But when you say it like that, but well, it just means that there's that possibility. In that case, the theory that ooishi-san proposed during the story, that it was a conspiracy by the villagers, was correct? What does the man himself have to say about that? Me? It makes you think, eh? Huh? Totally thought that ooishi-san would be behind the people explanation. During the story, I said it was definitely the work of people. But if a person really was to blame, that leaves a lot of loose ends. Like what? Let us hear what Detective Ooishi-san's theory is. First of all, if a human is the culprit, then there has to be a motive. In other words, somebody has to gain something from it. So what you mean is, if this was the work of people, then there would have to be something gained from causing the chains of mysterious deaths? Exactly. I felt that somebody could have benefited from the deaths of people related to the dam development, but the recent victims weren't related to that at all. First off, who benefits from killing Keiichi-kun? I see. If you say it like that, my case is kind of weak too. I mean, none of your money was stolen. There's no way it was human culprits. But that's not everything there is to it, right? Like Mi-chan just said, there might have been some sort of reason for them to reenact the folklore. Exactly! This wasn't a murder where you consider the typical motives. It makes me think that this was most likely some sort of ritualistic murder to reenact the blood-stained history of the village. So I'll ask the question of the hour. Who gains from this reenactment? It's not about simple benefit, it's some more psychological reason. I think that maybe this was an act of revenge. Something native to the region. Fate was unable to be fooled this time around. I see. A member of some repressed family looking to air out an old grudge of their ancestors. Something like that. I don't like that. And what is it? It couldn't be that you're leaning towards the first explanation, ooishi-san. That's right! The man playing the detective said so. It's decided, it was a curse! If, like how Mayabara-san said during the story, it was the case that Oyashiro-sama possessed Rena-san and Sonozaki-san and committed those acts, that would fit the evidence the most. As much as I hate to say it. Actually, I'm of the same opinion as ooishi-san. I can't come up with any other explanation for the normally kind Rena and Mi-chan to suddenly start acting strange like that. About that. It may sound strange coming from the person herself, but I think that I, Mion, did it. I don't get what Mi is saying. I'd like an explanation. Oh, sorry. In other words, I think this may end up being a really cruel story. Huh. Wait. Mi-chan, you don't mean... If you follow the trail of evidence to the very end, that's how it would seem. I also have my suspicions. In other words, Rena-san and Sonozaki-san both actually had those personalities to begin with, and were merely deceiving Mayabara-san. Am I right? I don't like that at all! This is all the curse's fault! Rena-san and Miya-san and everyone else are all kind, nice people! I think that too. I think that Rena and Mion-chan are really good people at heart. I think that during the story they definitely were possessed by something. Oh, Rena also thinks it was a curse. Then let me ask everybody who thinks it was a curse. There has to be a reason for a curse, right? I don't think there would be something indiscriminately cursing everything. Can somebody explain that? A curse is a curse. Human logic won't get us anywhere. Satoko-chan. A personified deity is, in the end, nothing more than the creation of people. That's why their method of thinking is also understandable to humans. Just take a look at the Greek pantheon. They cry, they get angry, get jealous. Basically, they're just like humans. What you're saying is that Oyashiro-sama is cursing people with some benefit in mind? That's an odd way of putting it, but basically yes. That's why they say, far from Jupiter, far from his thunder. You do have a point. Basically, it doesn't matter if it's Oyashiro-sama or humans. There has to be a reason. But Rika, what if that reason isn't clear? I don't know. That's right. This is still just the prologue. There's still a lot of stuff that hasn't been revealed yet. Yeah. Hard to come up with any more theories at this point. No, I won't be satisfied until this is all made clear. Mion-san seems rather particular about this as well. We'll just make the best with what we know. Doesn't this feel interesting? Like the club a little bit? Yeah! If you put it that way, it does seem interesting. Well then, let's summarize. Just let's see, I think it was a curse. Tomitake-kun thinks it was people, right? Yeah, I'll go with it being people. I also agree with the people explanation. It's not to say I hate such fantastic things as curses, but in this particular case, the connection to a curse is a little weak. 2 for the people explanation, then. Rena-san was on the curse side of things, right? Yep. Satoko-chan and I believe it was a curse, right? Yeah, I think it was a curse. People who say that Rena-san and Mion-san were evil to begin with are more befitting of a curse. Well, I don't want to believe that my own personality was that twisted, but I have to be cool when I'm in club mode. If I base my choice on just emotion, I'll regret it, you know? Well now, it doesn't really matter which side you pick, does it? Rika-chan hasn't said anything yet. What do you think? I don't think that Oyashiro-sama is a bad god. That's an interesting opinion. I don't want to worship some bad god that curses people. I'd like a generous god more than one that curses. That's right, Rika-chan is a shrine maiden. Yep, good opinion. Then what? If Rika-chan doesn't believe that it was Oyashiro-sama, then do you think the perpetrators were human after all? We'll just go with that. Well now, that means the votes are split right down the middle. So half of us think it was a curse, and half of us think it was people. Nana-chan, just for reference, what did the test players who played the beta version think? Yeah. There were a lot more players who believed in the people explanation. See right there! Our veteran comrades are cool, collected, and very observant. But the beta version only finished partway through the story. That's right. Even the people who played the beta must change their minds if they got through to the very end. What should we do then? What should we do then? What should we do then? This means that the opinions are still split. No fun if we don't settle this. We need there to be an odd number of judges, in other words. We need one more opinion. Perfect timing then. Why don't we ask Keiichi-kun himself? Let's call him. The opinion of the victim himself is very valuable. Since that's decided, it's time for the phone! Hello, Keiichi-kun? It's Rena. Are you busy with work right now? Yeah, really busy. Just when I thought I'd get a break because this chapter's over, it's already time for the next one! How's Kei-chan? Busy? Yeah, he's moping. I can hear you, you know. Must be nice having a wrap-up party. I wanted to go too. can come if you get some character art for yourself. Rika, that's a secret. Sorry about that, Keiichi-kun. Anyways, during the current chapter, Keiichi-kun, didn't you die? We were just talking about who the culprit might be. Basically, we're deadlocked on whether it was people or Yashiro-sama's curse that killed you. I'm really sorry, even though you're busy reviewing the scripts. Keiichi-kun, which do you think it was? That's obvious, isn't it? Which? Isn't it both of them? Targeted by suspicious people from the village and then cursed by some strange Yashiro-sama on top of that. It's both humans and a curse. Everybody's just picking on me. So very, very pitiful. Next time I'll pat you on the head for you. In the end, the opinions still split, huh? I'll think this over again. We might have missed something. Well then, please look forward to the next release. Higurashi When They Cry. Watanagashi. Oh, I believe then that is everything, because please don't do 3 like Umineko does. Yep, that's everything. Alrighty, citizens, that was Onikakushi. Which means we are 2 down, and yeah, I was a good fun time. Let's see. It's only 10. Alright, here's what I'm gonna do, if anyone's here. I'm gonna make some tea. More tea. I finished the other mug a while back. And then I will start Watanagashi. Probably only do 1 chapter tonight, but yeah. Thank you for joining me. If you are a blah 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 word speak, I can do the word thing. Speaking of them, and yeah, I enjoyed this. I've been having fun going through these again. I don't know about if anyone else is, if anyone is even here. But you know, like I said on Twitter and blah blah blah, follow me on Twitter. I'm doing this no matter what. So you know, if anyone wants to come and go, you know, do it. I don't care. I mean, I do care. I guess I should care. I don't know. But I started doing this because of Sotsu starting up, and I'm just gonna probably just plow through it now at this point. And yeah, I'm catching a lot of stuff that I've either forgot or I don't remember anymore if I ever did read all of these originally. I know I read at least the first couple, but anyway, yeah, I'm gonna go get on that tea, and I'll be back in a minute or two. Then we'll start Watanagashi. So yeah, I'll see you guys in a minute, and until then, farewell for a minute. Yeah. Let me just do this. Oh, also, I didn't want to real quick before I go. I